if you feel stuck in your life, if you keep repeating the same mistakes, the problem may not be your effort. The problem may be something you refuse to see. You believe you are in control of your choices. You believe your decisions are conscious. But Carl Jung warned us that when the unconscious remains unseen, it quietly takes control of your entire life. And the most powerful part of the unconscious is what Jung called the shadow. The shadow is not just the bad part of you. It is the hidden part of you, the anger you were taught to suppress, the confidence you were told was arrogance, the desires you learned to label as wrong. You didn't hide these parts because you were weak. You hid them because you wanted to be accepted. You wanted to be loved. You wanted to survive. But Jung made one thing very clear. What is repressed does not disappear. It becomes stronger in the dark. That is why you overreact to small things. That is why you sabotage yourself when things start going well. That is why you feel drawn to the same painful patterns, the same toxic people, the same emotional loops. It feels like bad luck. It feels like the world is against you. But most of the time, it is your shadow pulling the strings from behind the scenes. The most dangerous part is this. You think everything is fine. You think the problem is outside of you, other people, circumstances, fate. But until you face your shadow, you are not truly living. You are only reacting. In this video, we will explore how your shadow has been controlling your life and how the moment you become aware of it, you begin to take your power back. Most people believe their problems come from the outside. They blame circumstances. They blame other people. They blame bad luck, bad timing, or a broken system. But Carl Jung saw something deeper. He believed that what truly traps a person is not what happens to them, but what remains unconscious within them. When something inside you is denied, ignored, or rejected, it doesn't vanish. It begins to operate in secret. This is why people repeat the same patterns, even when they desperately want change. You leave one painful situation, only to find yourself in another that feels strangely familiar. Different faces, different places, same emotional outcome. Jung explained this with a simple truth. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. What you call fate is often just a hidden part of you, trying to be seen. Unprocessed anger becomes passive aggression. Unacknowledged fear becomes control. Rejected vulnerability turns into emotional distance. And because you don't recognize these forces as your own, you project them onto others. You see the problem everywhere, except within yourself. This is a real trap. The mind prefers comfort over truth. It is easier to believe the world is unfair than to admit there is something inside you asking for attention. So the cycle continues. The same mistakes, the same disappointments, the same inner conflict. Not because you are broken, but because a part of you has been silenced for too long. The hidden problem is not your weakness. The hidden problem is your unseen power. And the moment you stop running from it, the moment you stop blaming the outside world, you take the first real step toward change. When people hear the word shadow, they often imagine something dark, dangerous, or evil. But Carl Jung meant something far more human. The shadow is not the worst part of you. It is the unlived part of you. Your shadow is made of everything you learned to hide in order to belong. Every emotion that was called too much, every trait that was labeled unacceptable, every impulse that didn't fit the image, you were expected to maintain. As a child, you quickly learned what brought approval and what brought rejection. So you adapted. You pushed certain parts of yourself into the background and presented only what felt safe. Over time, those hidden parts didn't disappear. They went underground. The shadow can hold anger, envy, and fear, but it can also hold confidence, creativity, assertiveness, and even joy. This is why people often feel incomplete, without knowing why. They say, something is missing. They feel numb, restrained, or disconnected from themselves. That missing feeling is often the shadow, asking to be acknowledged. Jung believed the shadow becomes destructive only when it is ignored. When unseen, it leaks out sideways, through sarcasm, through self-sabotage, through sudden emotional reactions that don't match the situation. But when the shadow is recognized, it becomes a source of strength. It brings honesty instead of oppression, wholeness instead of perfection, depth instead of performance. The goal is not to eliminate the shadow. That is impossible. The goal is to integrate it, to see it, to understand it, to take responsibility for it. Because only when you accept what you are can you consciously choose who you become. One of the clearest signs that your shadow is in control is how strongly you react. When something small triggers an emotional explosion, the situation itself is rarely the cause. It is touching something deeper, something unresolved. Overreaction is often the shadow speaking. Another sign is repeated self-sabotage. Just when things begin to improve, you hesitate, procrastinate, or make a decision that pulls you backward. On the surface, it looks like fear of failure, but often it is fear becoming visible. Fear of stepping into a part of yourself you were taught to hide. Projection is another powerful clue. You intensely dislike certain traits in others: arrogance, weakness, selfishness, dishonesty. But what disturbs you most is usually something you have disowned in yourself. The shadow does not want to be exposed, so it appears outside of you instead. Passive aggression is another sign. You say you're fine, but resentment leaks out in subtle ways. Silence, sarcasm, withdrawal. There's also the need to appear positive at all times. Forced optimism can be a mask, a way to avoid anger, grief, or disappointment. When emotions are constantly bypassed, they don't disappear, they accumulate. And finally, there's exhaustion. Living against yourself is tiring. Holding down parts of your nature requires constant energy. You may feel burned out, numb, or disconnected, even when nothing is obviously wrong. These signs are not failures. They are messages. They are the psyche's way of saying that something inside you wants to be seen, heard, and integrated. The shadow doesn't control you because it is evil. It controls you because it has been ignored. Ignoring your shadow doesn't make it go away. It only makes it stronger. Every part of yourself you refuse to acknowledge continues to influence your life from the shadows. This is why people who avoid their inner darkness often feel drained, anxious, or powerless. The shadow is energy, repressed energy. And energy that isn't recognized doesn't vanish. It sabotages you quietly, persistently, invisibly. Think about the times you felt inexplicably frustrated, or angry for no reason, or when you sabotage your own success, or repeatedly attracted toxic relationships. Those are not coincidences. They are the shadow sending signals that something inside you is being ignored. By denying it, you are weakening yourself. Jung explained it simply. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The more you resist, the more it controls you. The more you run from it, the more it dictates your choices. Even your strengths can turn into weaknesses if you are unconscious of them. Fear becomes anxiety. Ambition becomes obsession. Confidence becomes arrogance. All because the shadow is neglected. Ignoring the shadow is like ignoring a storm, building inside your mind and body. It will manifest, sometimes subtly, sometimes violently, but recognizing it is the first step to power. By acknowledging your shadow, you convert hidden energy into awareness. You reclaim the parts of yourself that have been driving your life behind the scenes. Ignoring it keeps you weak. Facing it makes you whole. This is why shadow work is not optional. It is essential for anyone who wants true strength, clarity, and freedom in life. Integration of the shadow begins with a single, simple step: awareness. Before you can transform the hidden parts of yourself, you must first see them, notice them, acknowledge their presence without judgment. This is not easy. The shadow is cunning. It thrives in denial and disguises itself as fear, anger, or doubt. It whispers excuses. It's not really me. It's just how they are. I can ignore this for now. But the moment you stop running and look inward with honesty, the shadow begins to lose its grip. Start with observation. Notice your triggers. When you feel intense emotions, pause and ask yourself, which part of me is speaking here? Which fear, insecurity, or suppressed desire is pushing this reaction? Journaling is one of the most powerful tools here. Write down what bothers you, what frustrates you, what makes you uncomfortable. Do not edit, do not justify, do not rationalize. Just let it surface. Another step is to embrace responsibility. The shadow cannot be blamed on others. It exists within you, and it is your task to understand it. Importantly, shadow work is compassion, not punishment. You are not exposing yourself to shame. You are discovering hidden resources. Many traits you once considered bad can become strengths when integrated consciously. The first step is not transformation. It is recognition. It is seeing what you have denied. It is meeting your shadow face to face, without fear, without judgment, and saying, I see you. You are part of me. Only then can you begin the journey of true empowerment, turning the energy that once controlled you into conscious strength and authenticity. Individuation is the process of becoming your true self. It is the moment when you stop living as a reaction to your environment and start living consciously, aligned with your inner truth. This journey begins where shadow work ends. When you have faced your hidden parts, acknowledged them, and started integrating them into your conscious life, when the masks you wear fall away, you begin to see yourself clearly, not the version the world expected you to be, but the version that has always existed. Beneath the surface, individuation is not perfection. It is not a life without struggle or pain. It is a life where your struggles are understood, where your shadows are embraced, and where your choices come from awareness, not avoidance. This is where true self-trust is born. When you act from this place, your decisions carry weight because they are rooted in authenticity. Your relationships deepen because you no longer seek validation, but connection. Your energy changes. Instead of being drained by inner conflict, you are empowered by alignment. Your inner world is no longer a battlefield, but a foundation for conscious growth. Every step in individuation is a step toward freedom. Freedom from repeating the same patterns. Freedom from fear, self-doubt, and projection. Freedom from living a life dictated by unconscious forces. This is the promise of Jungian psychology. Not a life free from darkness, but a life where darkness is understood, controlled, and transformed into a source of strength. When you reach this stage, you are no longer lost in the chaos of your mind. You are centered, aware, and whole. Individuation is not the end. It is the emergence of the authentic self. Now, after all of this, pause for a moment. You face a shadow, explore its influence, and begun the journey of integration. It is natural to feel a mix of relief and discomfort. The shadow is not gone, and it never fully disappears. But that is not the point. The point is awareness. The point is choice. You are no longer at the mercy of forces you cannot see. You're no longer a passive observer of your own life. You're learning to act consciously, to respond with understanding rather than reaction, to live with authenticity rather than fear. This journey is not linear. There will be setbacks. Old patterns will resurface. Triggers will challenge you. But every time you notice, every time you pause and reflect, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You turn what once controlled you into a source of insight, power, and freedom. Remember, surviving your inner darkness is not the ultimate goal. Thriving in the presence of your shadow is. You are not broken. You are becoming whole. You are not weak. You are reclaiming the strength that was hidden in plain sight. And if this resonates with you, if it strikes a chord deep within, let it be a reminder. The journey is yours. Every step is yours. Every shadow you face is yours to integrate. And every step forward is yours to celebrate. This is the essence of Carl Jung's message. True liberation comes not from escaping darkness, but from understanding it, embracing it, and using it to illuminate your path forward. Take this with you. The work is ongoing, and every moment of awareness brings you closer to the person you were always meant to become.